You know what becomes difficult for all of us is that I'm going to give you an example. We're at a dinner, okay, last night, and for some reason we were talking about going to Lourdes in France, and me and my wife had gone there years ago, and we went into the pools. It truly was a deeply spiritual experience for both of us. So as we were talking, there was like three or four of us, and one of my friends says, "Jimmy, well, what did it feel like? I mean, this feeling. I mean, was like, were you happy? Were you joyful? Were you like, did tears come to your eyes?" And so I says, "I'll tell you what. What does it feel like when you hold one of your grandchildren in your arms, and all of a sudden you become completely focused on that child? What does it feel like inside? Can you explain that?" And he says, "No, but it must be like heaven. It has to be like heaven." And I says, "Okay, here's the thing. It wasn't the grandchild that allowed you to feel that way, but it was the grandchild that allowed you to become still. And when we become still, we have that same experience that you just explained as being heaven. That is God's spiritual energy. That's God's spirit within us." Because it's very hard to convince someone how powerful the peace and power of the present moment is until they experience it. We're never going to convince them with words. It has to be an action, always, as we've all experienced over the last 2.5 months, 3 months.
So incredible that this is, to me, the heart of all the conversations about deep spirituality. It really, anything beyond it, like Jim was saying earlier, is really kind of a head exercise. You know, maybe there's some interest in trying to, I joke about this because I spent so many years doing it, you know, knowing the Trinitarian formula, but I doubt it. Love, though, is immediately knowable and understandable when we experience it. We know the negation of it, and we know the reality of it. And if you know the reality of it, you're already knowing God. Because God is love. That's what John says. God is love.
Yeah.
And the most amazing thing to me about most spiritual programs I've been a part of in the past is how they separate those two things, talking about God or love, and then doing stuff, serving God. You know, like Jim said, the will of God usually translates to something you're supposed to do. And they got the top 10. Well, the top one is go to church, right? That ought to let us know something, right? Wait a second. The top one is, okay, it's like we're going to play football. We'll go to practice, go to the gym. Okay, that's preparing us to play, but it's not playing, just so you know. It might help when you get hit, but it's not playing. It's not the experience. It's somehow in contemplative work, we're bringing those two things together, aren't we? The loving experience of love, and then the force of that love that moves us out into the world in a manner that's full of love. And so you, all those virtues that we talk about, or Jesus talks about, and all great teachers of love are, well, they'll define it. What is love? Well, it's compassion, it's kindness, it is hope-filled, it's joy-filled, it's forgiving. At the heart of love is this forgiveness that is undeniable. And I don't know. Well, I do know why we would move away from that kind of conversation and that kind of expectation with one another. When you were talking, Stephen, about being planted, I think that's what people miss when they move around, in a sense, is going to that place where you get below the religion, as it were, to this conversation that we're having right this second. And Jim, I don't know a better analogy than the one you just gave about holding a grandchild, the love that you feel in that moment. That you just helped me by saying something that I had not thought of, that it's not the grandchild.
Right.
The grandchild is like a spiritual practice in a sense in that moment. It opened us up to the possibility to experience what belongs to us all the time. But that is it. That is what we're talking about. And now I have something to say to people when they say, well, what do you experience when you breathe? That's what I experience. And when I'm still and I'm breathing, I experience that. The grandchild may have, it's my best, I don't have one yet, but it may be my best spiritual practice. It may be better, but it's still tapping into the same reality.